Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Dr. Joey interviews Christian business professionals just like you to discover their secrets for working faith positive in a negative world. Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett.
Faith Positive Nation. Hey, today we're going to talk about superpowers. And what is your superpower? Obviously, mine is wearing a blue Mardi Gras mask, right? Only thing is I don't have the feathers coming out of mine. Why didn't I get one like that? And hey, look, my guest today has one too because he is the awesome author of Ordinary Superpowers.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! That's right. And now we're going to do the Batman theme, right?
Batman!
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
That's the Adam West version.
That's it. Well, that was the only version. Yeah, the other guys are too uptight, man. We want the campy thing. All right, so this is Mark Henson, Faith Positive Nation. He is the awesome author of, hold it up again, Joey, Ordinary Superpowers. And you know, God built us all in certain ways. There's a divine design in each and every one of us. Over 7 billion people on the face of the planet. And God's made each of us unique to make that unique contribution in the workspace and in the workplace. Speaking of workspaces and workplaces, you know, sometimes it's really helpful to get outside of your workspace so that you can get into creativity and innovation and things like that. My guest today, besides being the author of the amazing, cue the book again, Ordinary Superpowers, is also the founder of Spark Space, which is an award-winning executive retreat center in none other than Columbus, Ohio. So Faith Positive Nation, help me welcome to the podcast today my new friend and superhero, Mark Henson. Mark, welcome to Faith Positive Radio, man.
Thank you so much. That's like the best intro I've ever had.
Well, do all your hosts, do they do this thing, man? Or am I the only one?
Most of them are audio only, so I like to think they're wearing the mask, but
you have no visual proof, do you?
I don't always ask to see, but I will from now on.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, see, we here, our superpower at Faith Positive Radio is we're audio and video, and we wear masks, man. We wear masks.
I love it.
So we're going to unmask, but we're not going far. I'm going to get a Sharpie out and give myself a couple of eyeballs right up here. How about that? So is it cool if I wear this on my large forehead before?
That's totally fine.
Okay, I can wear that. All right. Man, tell me about Spark Space, an award-winning executive retreat center. Yeah, okay. In Columbus, Ohio.
Spark Space is the brainchild I had 18 years ago, where I wanted to create a space where companies could get away from their typical mundane, boring office and have a place where they could let their hair down. They could be more creative. They could be more collaborative. They could actually maybe even enjoy a meeting instead of dreading meetings. I was very fortunate to
enjoy meetings. What's
I know
that all about,
it's
right?
Oxymoron or something, right?
Or an ordinary moron. I don't know.
So I was always blessed to work in very creative environments, and I always saw how great it was for the energy of the people involved, the creativity. So I built a place where people could come and, bring their team away from their office and get off site for the day and have a better meeting. And that's now 17 plus years old.
Wow, that's incredible. So it won awards. How do you use the architecture in the space to really stimulate creativity and innovation?
Well, a lot of it's, we have obviously each room, we have 5 different rooms at Spark Space, and they all have a similar feel but slightly different vibe at the same time. Okay. Some have more natural light than others. Some are larger, just different sizes, different decor. But the main sort of common themes they're set up for collaboration. So our furniture is all very comfortable and casual and easy to move around, so people can arrange on the fly. They can get face to face with people and not be separated by gigantic tables. They can, we've got all the tools and stuff that you would need, everything from projectors and whiteboards and all of that. But really, I always say we're a high touch space rather than a high tech space. Even though we have all the toys as well, we kind of tuck those away unless people need them. That's not the point. To me, the point of having a meeting is you're in the same room at the same time, and you're trying to either build a relationship or build relationships among the people in the room. You're trying to solve a problem. or overcome a challenge, or you're trying to think about a bigger and better future. Those are the three big reasons why we exist as a company. So that's what we do day in and day out. And I like to think we do it better than anybody.
Well, you're award-winning, man, right?
We've won a few.
Yeah, so you do that. Well, I love your emphasis on people with people, because it seems like to me technology, while it's wonderful, I mean, we're using it right now, right? And it's awesome. You're there in Columbus. I'm in Danville, Virginia. So it's an amazing thing, but it gets in the way of us being people to people. And I have been in so many meetings where I refer to it by death by PowerPoint.
Yes.
Oh, God.
I call it PowerPointless.
That's good. That's good. Man, I'd rather watch paint dry than most PowerPoint presentations, because I know that wall's going to look better when it's through, right?
Exactly.
Put PowerPoint up on it, it does not look better, right? Only when it's over. So the guy snoring on the back row, you're with him, right?
Right.
So how did God give you this idea for Spark Space?
Since I worked in very creative environments before this, I worked I was in radio for a long time. I was a radio DJ, and then I left that horrible industry and got into,
wait a minute. There were a few good guys in it.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, like there was me and there was you, right? We both have faces for radio, right?
That's two. Yeah. That makes two that I've met.
Out of 2 million stations. Right?
No, I take that back. My time in radio actually produced some lifelong friends that I still have, and I haven't been in radio for well over 20 years. Actually, way more than that, almost 30 years ago now. Scary.
We don't have to count.
Yeah. But at the time, it just wasn't. It was interesting because I was using some of my superpowers that I had at that time, but it wasn't lining up with my values, and so that's why I decided to leave
in an organization with whom you didn't share values.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, first of all, and man, look, this is huge. We talk about it a lot in Faith Positive Work Style. Tell me about your superpowers. What's your superpower, man, besides sending guys like me amazing mask that they'll wear at the drop of a hat, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have 3 superpowers that I've discovered, actually 4 in a way. The first one is I love to explore the new. I love to explore anything new and fresh. I love to brainstorm. I love to travel. I love to anything that involves experiencing something new or exploring something new. So that's one. Right. My second superpower is simplifying things. I love to take ideas and boil them down to something very understandable. I always say I have to dumb everything down so I can understand it. And I didn't.
So you take the complex and make it simple.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that was a superpower. I was just trying to make the world more understandable for me. But that's the way a superpower works. It's these things that we have, these skills and talents and abilities that we use a lot for ourselves, and we don't even necessarily realize it. So that was one for me for sure.
So it's such a natural part of who God's created us to be, or it's like, I like to call it the divine design, right? Yeah. That you're just doing it and helping other people with it, and it's natural. It
Absolutely.
flows.
And you don't even realize it's special. That's where the term ordinary superpowers comes in.
Oh, wow. I love that. So you think everybody's wired this way, right? Because you're doing it.
Yeah, I think everybody loves to brainstorm. Doesn't everybody love experiencing new things? And that is not true.
Most of us drive to work the same route every morning.
Exactly.
Home the same night.
And that literally drives me nuts to do that. I love to take a different route.
Okay.
My third superpower, the first one is exploring the new. The second one is simplifying things. And the third one is communicating through writing and speaking. I love, I wrote a book, but I've been writing forever. In fact, my previous job to starting my business was a copywriter for many years. And I love doing that. I love to write. It's one of the things that always gives me energy when I do it.
So did you love to write when you were a kid?
No, strangely enough, writing I was always a bit of a fantasizer, I love to pretend and play and create and, we joke about Batman and the Batman theme, but Batman was my alter ego when I was little. That was my default go-to superhero, and I played Batman a lot. I played Luke Skywalker a lot in my backyard. I made up stories. I did all of that. I would rope my dog into the story and the whole deal.
So did you put a bath towel around your neck with a clothespin and that was your cape?
In fact, I did it so much, my mom finally made me a cape. Because I think she was afraid. I think she was afraid I was going to choke myself to death on a bath towel.
So we were at church one Sunday, right? And this little guy comes in. He must have been 4, and he had on a cape, and it was a Batman cape. And I thought it was the best thing in the world. And some of the others, parents were looking at him like he's crazy, but I loved it. So I said, "Man, can I touch your cape?" And he said, "Yeah, but be careful." So I touched his cape. I look at Mark. This is no kidding. There was a label on that cape that said, "This cape will not make you fly."
And they needed that for some kid.
Right. Some kid jumped off his roof and said, I killed myself and I couldn't fly. You know.
Yeah,
Well, I thought it was great to wear a Batman cape to church. I absolutely loved it. So,
why not?
So when did you start writing? What was that defining moment when you discovered that superpower?
You writing the book or just writing in general?
Just writing in general. Then you can tell me about the book.
When I was in radio,
Okay.
many, many years ago, I loved doing commercials. I loved writing commercials. I ended up being the marketing and promotion director at the radio stations I worked for, which meant, a lot more work for no more money, basically. Right. But I usually got a business card out of it, which was kind of cool.
And you got to exercise your superpower because
exactly.
you could write the commercials, right?
And that involved a lot of writing and a lot of organization of information and that kind of stuff. So that actually turned out to be something I really enjoyed that I never knew, because I never enjoyed writing in school. Like I said, I didn't even journal or anything like that growing up.
Okay.
But I loved writing commercial copy and advertising copy. That was really fun for me.
Right. Because
that's where it all started.
You voiced it then, right? And write it, voice it. And so it was a complete creative process.
Yeah, it was very fun because that was one of the neatest things, was doing a commercial where I would write it, I would produce it, voice it, do the whole thing. And then literally the next morning when I got up, it would be on the radio. And I could turn on my radio and I could hear what I created.
Oh man.
Talk about instant gratification.
Oh, it really is. And that creative process is probably cut out of the same bolt of cloth where you like new experiences.
Oh, absolutely.
And so those superpowers are kind of comparable, if you would.
Oh yeah.
So you got that writing and speaking one, you got simplifying, you got the Brave New World every day kind of thing. What's your 4th superpower?
The 4th one came up as I was writing the book. I knew those 3 about myself for a while before I ever wrote the book.
Right.
But as I wrote the book, I kept thinking, is there anything else about me that I would consider to be above and beyond, or some kind of extra talent or skill? And it came to my mind that one of the things that I cannot stand in the world is when people are left out of things. So I've called my 4th superpower including the unincluded. I can't stand it when someone's outside of a conversation and they should be in the conversation. I can't stand it when somebody's left behind or left out. And really much more on a very personal level. Like, I know you could probably take this to the level of there are starving people in the world who are left out.
Sure.
I don't necessarily take it that far, although I do have a lot of compassion for that.
Right.
It's really like when I see somebody in the same room that I'm standing in who's not part of the conversation, that I just have to reach out and pull them in and make sure that they feel welcome and included, and so that they don't feel like they're over there on the island of misfit toys all by themselves.
Yeah. Wow. See, now you're making me remember when Jesus walked up to the Samaritan woman who was at the well at high noon, hottest part of the day, because, she was with her 5th man, 4 of to whom she'd been married. And so none of the other women wanted to be around her. That's why she was drawing water at that time of day. And Jesus walked up to her and started talking to her. So
I always pictured that where she literally would look around herself like, are you
talking to me?
Me? You talking to me?
Yeah, because a Jewish man would never talk to a Samaritan woman, much less her, right? So you're Jesus, man. You're Jesus in the room. So that's your 4th superpower is being Jesus to other people, right?
I do wear sandals quite a bit.
Yeah, your hair's a little short to me. I don't know how to tell you that. I obviously am an expert on hair. Well, I love that. So how does your faith underlie, because I'm hearing a lot of spiritual principles here, these superpowers and your superpowers and the discovery of superpowers, ordinary superpowers.
Right.
How does your faith come into play in understanding ordinary superpowers?
Well, I think you hit it on the head earlier that I believe these are all God-given gifts, right? Mm-hmm. Whether we recognize them as gifts or even recognize them as extraordinary or remarkable. we're all bestowed with certain things, and you've got a different set than I do. And I think that's one of the miracles of life, is that somehow with 7 billion people on the planet, we seem to be able to get almost anything done, right? Instead of us all having the same talents and abilities, we all have different talents and abilities. You put, a room full of 10 people together on a team, or four or five people together in a family, and they all have different superpowers. And even growing up in the same house, like looking at my 2 kids, vastly different superpowers, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And how is that even possible, other than there's some other design behind it all? Right, because if it was up to me, they would be identical. It would be so much easier.
That's right. You drop in a quarter and get the same response every time, right?
Exactly. I wouldn't have to learn how to deal with 2 different people. I could deal with one. But God had different plans for that. So
yeah, he did. And for all of us. Well, I'm reminded of Paul's body metaphor. Christ is the head, but then like you're the hands and I'm the foot. And, so we all work together. We all have our individual parts. And so therein lies the secret to the body of Christ. So if we think about the population of the earth as one big body of Christ, right? We all have our ordinary superpowers to contribute. So what happens when somebody says, "Oh, Mark, I don't have a superpower. What are you talking about?"
Well, sometimes I use some language I wouldn't share on your show.
I refer to it as
starts with a B and ends with an S, right?
Yeah, I live on a farm with horses, so I catch it. I got it. Yeah, we don't have bulls, but we have.
Yeah, anyway. If I don't say it out loud, I at least imply it.
Yeah.
Because
okay. I never. Mark, I don't have a superpower.
No, I truly don't believe that. I believe everybody has them. So what I do in those cases, rather than try to convince them they have a superpower, I just start asking them some questions if we have the time.
What questions do you ask them?
The same kind of questions I ask in the book, which are things like, what do people compliment you about? Surely there are things you do when people, they will compliment you, like, "Oh, you're so good at organizing information," or "You're so good at making people feel welcome," or "You're so good at playing the trumpet," or whatever it is. When people compliment you, to me, that's one of those flags that says they know that you're better at that than they are. You know what I mean? Usually that's where we start laying on compliments, is we're in some sort of awe of someone's ability or talent. So we feel so much of that, we actually bring it up because it's it's truly remarkable. In the truest definition is, it is such a great ability, we will actually remark on it. We'll compliment them on it. We'll brag about them to our friends or family.
The cool thing is,
one good indication. Yeah.
Yeah. The cool thing is, other people will recognize in you that God-given ability, and maybe you don't see it in yourself, because we're back to that thing where it's such a natural part of who you are.
Right.
You're just doing your thing day in and day out, and you go, "Wait a minute, there's nothing special about that." Well, yeah, it is, because it's your superpower, right? Your spiritual gift.
And it takes time. And some of it has to do with people's level of confidence. If you don't have a good sense of self-worth to begin with, it's hard to tell somebody there's something special about you and have them believe it.
Yeah, especially when the world's beat them up, or maybe their family of origin or something was not that kind of supportive environment where you discovered who you were and your superpowers, right?
Yeah, not to mention, think about this. We're talking about superpowers, and we're talking about telling the world, in a sense, "Hey, here's what's great about me." And that is exactly the opposite of what we've been taught to do our entire lives. Don't brag about yourself. That's bad. It looks terrible. You should be humble. You should be humble. It's like, to me, humility is not about, the fact that I should be able to share my strengths with people.
Absolutely. Your best self.
How else will they know how to maximize me to their benefit? How else will I be able to really, truly contribute if people don't know what my talents and abilities are? So I never really look at it as bragging, like I'm so good at this stuff. And if you think about like the superpowers I mentioned, simplifying things, that's not like the biggest bragging point in the world, right? But it's a real powerful, impactful skill.
Sure it is.
But it's not going to win me any Oscars or anything, right?
Well, it depends on if you want to win an Oscar. Right. I mean, that's just one metric. And I apologize, I can't remember to give credit to the author, but my favorite definition of humility is, it's not that you think less of yourself, it's that you think less about yourself.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I can recognize and give glory to God for the superpowers I have, right? For the spiritual
Sure.
gifts I have. And I can just say, hey, here's the way God knit me together. This is the way he shaped me. He sculpted me. This is the way he stages me, because it goes into each day and prepares opportunities for me to use my superpowers. So I'm really just obediently glorifying God using the gifts that he's given me. So it's not about me. It's about me and my Heavenly Father, whom, by the way, I happen to resemble.
Right. And nobody has more superpowers than God.
No, man. It's like,
And if we're built in his image, I'd like to believe maybe a few of those superpowers trickle down to us.
well, scripture's really clear. Some translations have it a little less than the angels. In Psalm 8, we're a little less than God. I mean, that's who we are. So why not, for the benefit, like my superpowers are to benefit you and the rest of the world, right?
Right.
Why not use your superpowers to the best of your ability if that's what God gave you?
Absolutely.
So one of the barriers people face to really claiming their spiritual gifts or their ordinary superpowers is they think they're not worthy. What are some of the other challenges that you hear from people about, oh, I don't have ordinary superpowers, I can't?
I think sometimes that they've never been recognized by other people. So they've never actually heard it. It's not a matter of self-worth necessarily, but it's just never been pointed out to them. So there's no awareness of it. And I've seen studies in the past that show that one of the lowest ranking pieces of someone's sort of personal development or personal characteristics is self-awareness. People just don't have a good, complete picture of themselves or who they are, or what their strengths are, or what their blind spots or weaknesses are too. And so following that train of thought, to me, that says that sometimes when we have these talents and abilities and skills, even though they may be remarkable, even they may be super or extraordinary, we've never recognized it because we don't have enough awareness of the fact that they are better than the people around us in a sense, or that no one's ever pointed them out or complimented us or recognized or rewarded us for those talents and abilities. Even though they're there, they've just never been acknowledged.
Wow, man. And that really speaks to work teams today, I think.
Yes. Because we put people in roles and jobs and say, this is the role and this is the job, this is the task. Please do that.
Yep. And we
instead
identify
of
them by the task.
Yeah. Instead of, what are you really good at doing? Like how do we leverage that? Now, the hard part is we still need to do those tasks and roles that we were hired for.
Yeah. Because you got to pay the mortgage.
Right. And we got stuff to get done in our business.
Right.
One of the things that I'm most proud of in my own business is the fact that we have spent a lot of time on ourselves. It's not even me developing my team. It's we develop together. I'm developing myself. We develop each other. They develop me. It's like it goes back and forth. We spend a lot of time on this, identifying what are each person's strengths or superpowers. Using my book, obviously, I made them all read my book because I'm the boss. But we've also used...
That's one of the liabilities of working for an author, right?
Exactly. We're going to have a book club this week, kids.
That's right. One of the assets, excuse me. You get free copies of the latest book.
Exactly. So we've done my book. We've done Colby assessments. We've done DISC assessments. We've done Strengths Finder. We've done all of that. And that's just all part of, painting a more and more accurate picture of ourselves.
Okay, so how does that translate into everyday work? Because a lot of us have been in environments where we did MBTI and all those kinds of things. And we understand that. And it seems like it works for a while. And I remember, what you're, like I'm an ENFJ. And,
see, I don't remember Myers-Briggs at all.
Yeah.
That's why I had to simplify it.
Take the complex, make it simple.
Exactly.
How do you reinforce that in your work team daily?
It's a cultural thing. It's got to be, which means to me, like culture really means it's an ongoing conversation.
Okay. So it's woven into the fabric of who you are.
Yeah. We bring it up all the time. We talk about it all the time. And we're always seeking that next thing to explore. And part of that's me driving the company.
Sure.
But my team, I built a team of people who have that as maybe not one of their superpowers, but as definitely something they're interested in. So they like to develop. They like to grow. I think anybody who's given a taste of that growth and personal development, it becomes a little bit addictive. Like they know it's a good thing. They don't shy away from it anymore. Like some places shy away from it because it's like, oh, you're going to tell me everything that's wrong with me.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
No, and that's the wrong approach. Like focus on what's good about the people, not what they need to fix.
Sure, it's the difference between the wellness model and the sickness model, right?
Yes,
Or the
exactly.
illness model. So let's find out what's good. Let's find their strengths and accelerate those. So what's your underlying spiritual thought behind this? I mean, what drives this for you in your own faith journey in helping people discover their superpowers and put them into work?
I actually, in the step 2, the very beginning of the section of this book.
You mean in this book?
In that book, in this book
okay.
right here.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Shameless self-promotion. Like a lot of authors, I picked out some quotes that were meaningful to me from other people to place throughout the book and at the beginning of each section. And I actually picked a Bible verse. And it's not I wouldn't say it's my favorite Bible verse because I know we'll talk about that. It's one that I thought really applied from an underlying philosophy of why do any of this.
Okay.
And see, I need my glasses now. Hang on a second.
That's okay, man. Welcome to the 50 Club. Yeah.
And it's Paul from Romans where he says, if we can serve others, we should serve. If we can teach, we should teach. If we can encourage others, we should encourage them. If we can give, we should be generous. If we are leaders, we should do our best. If we are good to others, we should do it cheerfully. Like, to me, that whole verse says, you all have different talents and abilities and skills. Use them. I gave them to you to use them.
I love it.
And that's it for me. It's like, it's to use them. There's an underlying message in the book, and I share this in the book as well. But when I first started writing the book, I actually went through a guided meditation where someone was kind of helping us think through how to structure the book and what's the main core message and all of that. And this guided meditation was phenomenal because it led me to picking out 3 ideas. If I could leave 3 ideas to the world and I could die happy kind of thing. The first idea was I want people to recognize themselves. I want people to be 100% themselves, 100% authentic and genuine as much as possible. The second thing that I would leave people is not only recognize and be that authentic person, but love that person. Don't just acknowledge it. Don't just accept that person because we could know who we are and not like that person very much. Yeah. So taking the whole you and loving who that is. And then the third part is use that person to make a difference. Whatever that person's talents or abilities or skills are, do that. Don't try to be anything else. Don't try to be what the rest of the world is. And I think the messages in the Bible play along with that extremely well. It's forget the world, do what I put you here to do.
Wow. Yeah. Paul talks about in Romans 12, don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed. And
we're here to serve the world, Yes. So I think it all plays together is I have ways that I can serve the world. And when I go outside of that, when I try to do things that are not in my wheelhouse, some of them certainly I can develop and learn, but I have these natural things that come easy to me and I get really good results with them. Why wouldn't I use those,
Well, I wouldn't use them because somebody else told me what to do. And maybe I took on a work position that I really shouldn't have because it's not making use of my ordinary superpowers, right?
Yeah, or because it paid me well. And,
exactly.
And then I'm trapped
in mind.
You've got the golden handcuffs, and golden handcuffs are the antithesis of using ordinary superpowers. Is I'm trapped doing something I don't want to do, I'm not that good at, but the money pays.
Yeah, they're paying me too much to leave. And so you become a slave to the money, and we know Scripture tells us you can't serve God and mammon. Well, you chose to serve the money right there, right?
Yeah, I know people that got out of college, got a big paying job outside of what they went to school for and everything else.
Right.
And talking to them years later, they're like, gosh, I wish I could do something different. I work for a consulting firm, and what I really want to do is teach high school history.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, how was the money? Was it worth it? Because, I try not to judge that too much, but I look at those, I'm like, this. Now this. So what kind of different choice are you going to make now?
Well, you're trading your years for a different currency, right?
Trading your soul, I think.
Yeah,
in some
you really
ways,
are selling it out to the company's store. It was like Jesus said, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and to
Right.
lose his soul? So that's what Jesus was talking about. When
And
your
it's
work
not,
is no
to me,
longer worship.
it's not a salvation issue. Like, I'm not worried about it from that aspect, but it's
Mm-mm.
like, we're given, if we're lucky, we're given, 80 years, 90, 100 years, if we're really lucky, right?
I'm going to have to live to be 125 to get everything done that God's put
Right.
in front of me. So, we'll say 125. How about
Our
that?
adult working lives is give or take 100,000 hours of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot,
That
like
is a
that's a
lot.
lot to not do things that light us up, to not do things that we really contribute our best to.
So what do
So
you say?
that's what drives me. I don't want to
Really?
waste time.
No, we don't have time for that, right? We don't have time to waste time. So what do you say to somebody who's grumbling and complaining about their job and I'm just not happy, I'm just not fulfilled, I'm not satisfied with my work? What do you say to that person, Mark?
I stay away from those kind of people, to be honest with you. They drag me down.
I know. But man, they've got ordinary superpowers and yet they're not using them. So how do you help them escape?
Yeah. Some of it is people will complain that they hate their job, right?
Right.
And usually that it's for a couple of different reasons. Like if they have a horrible boss, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Not much you can do about that. You could be using all of your superpowers, have a horrible boss, and hate your job.
And that's the number one reason people leave jobs.
Sure.
Terrible bosses.
Yeah, I've always heard, and I believe it to be true, that people go to work for a company and they leave a job, they leave a boss, right?
Right. Exactly.
But if that's not the case, if it's that I just am not matching up with my job, I'm not satisfied, I don't feel like I'm contributing. Like I feel like people have this real driving need to contribute. I want to, if I'm going to spend my time there, I want it to feel like it makes a difference.
And a positive difference in other people's lives, right?
Yeah. I think people want to work positive, in any job that they're in. They want to have a positive impact. And when they don't, then it doesn't match up for them. And that's when they start getting unhappy. Now, do you have to leave and go find another job? Maybe. But I've never seen any job that so perfectly lines up with everything and who I am or who in somebody else is that it's always going to be perfect and make you perfectly happy. It's just not going to happen. I used to do this workshop a couple years ago called The Secrets of Greener Grass. And it was specifically for people that you just mentioned, that I don't like my job, I'd be better off somewhere else, my friends have better jobs, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And the secrets of greener grass are the grass is never greener anywhere else. It's only greener where you water it. It's only greener where you take care of it and you develop it and you make sure that it's fertilized and all this stuff. And I had this whole metaphor based on how I take care of my grass in my yard, which, by the way, I have the best grass on my whole street. And there's a reason for that. Yeah, talk about humility, right?
Not bragging. It's just fact.
It's just fact.
Okay.
If you drove down my street,
cut to the picture of your yard, right?
You could, if you drove down my street, you could pick out my yard. I guarantee.
Wow, that's Mark's yard.
Because you know why? Because I take care of it. I water it. I fertilize it. I dethatch it. I do everything you're supposed to do to make it look great, and it works. My neighbors all look at me and they're like, "How is your grass so green?" I'm like, "Do you not see me out here working multiple days a year to make it look like this?"
When you're inside watching the baseball game,
right.
I'm out here detaching.
Right. And so to them, they're kind of baffled by it. But to me, it's more of science than anything. I've done what it takes to make it look the way. So I believe people have the same kind of control over their, wherever they are, whether it's a marriage or whether it's their job or other types of relationships or communities they belong to. I believe to a certain degree, you can make it greener almost every time. And I always suggest, try to make it greener before you jump the fence. Yeah. Just see what happens. Work hard to make it greener for 6 months, 8 months, a year. And if it's still not greening up for you, then fine. Go put your superpowers to use somewhere else where they're probably a better fit.
Yeah, and at least you leave it better than you found it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you probably don't burn any bridges that way either. They'll be sad to see you go. Yeah,
they will be, rather than saying, "Don't let the screen door hit you on your way out," right?
Right.
Yeah. Man, I love what I hear you saying is that the divine image and likeness within all of us, that divine design that God gives us, right, takes expression through our work, and therein our work becomes worship. And each of us has a calling on our lives to worship God through our work. So I love the way you talk about it. I love this book, Ordinary Superpowers by Mark Henson. Get your copy today. And hey, buddy, when they order a copy, don't they get one of these really cool
They
masks?
do. If they
or is
order,
that just for special guys like me?
Well, you are special, but
my mother said so. Right.
If they order through my website, I automatically send it out. If you order through Amazon instead, or iTunes or anything else, if you just send me you could even just send me a note saying, hey, I bought it through Amazon. Here's my address, and I'll ship you out a mask.
Oh man, that's awesome. And you're actually asking people to wear the mask and to identify their superpower and send you a picture, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Send me a picture or post one better yet, post it on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or something so that other people see you, and it gives you a chance to shout out to the world what your superpowers are,
right? Which
may actually lead people to looking to you to use those powers sometime.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's my hope with it.
And then you can really maximize the spiritual giftedness that God's given you and putting in place, right?
Absolutely.
In your spirit. So how can people get in touch with you? What's the website?
Website is markhenson.me. Henson like the Muppet guy, if you're old enough to remember who created the Muppets. So markhenson.me is my website. The book is there. My blog is there. Everything about me is there. And then if you're interested in SparkSpace, since we talked about that, that's just at sparkspace.com.
Okay.
You can see what that's all about too.
All this stuff's in the episode copy. So if you're out running and listening to this, it's right there in the episode copy. Please don't stop. Keep running until you finish your 3.5 miles, right? Or however far it is that you're going today. Man, this has been awesome, Mark. It's been great for me because what I love what you're doing is you're really helping people work faith positive by helping them identify their ordinary superpowers. And I love that whole thought about ordinary superpowers because so many of us will put off, you tell me, I got a superpower. Well, it sounds like I'm bragging, right? And then I got to produce and I may not be there. It's ordinary. It's the way all of us are made, all 7 billion of us here on the face of the planet, with the divine image and likeness within us and spiritual gifts in order to serve others. Man, I love it. Thanks for the gift of your time today, buddy. I appreciate it. And I pray God's blessings on you, your family, your dogs. You got cats? No.
I have a cat. Yeah, we have one dog, one cat. Yeah,
one dog, one cat. Okay, and especially on SparkSpace and Ordinary Superpowers. Go get your copy today. markhenson.me and tell them that you heard him here on Faith Positive Radio. Thanks so much, Mark. God bless you, buddy.
Thank you. That was great.
Thanks for listening to Faith Positive Radio, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Suggest guests and ask questions when you email Dr. Joey at info@getpositive.today. And be sure to get your free gift of the 5 positive business conversations to have today coaching program at getpositive.today. Until next time, may God bless you with everything your heart can hope for and more than your mind can imagine.